Muhammad Ali, you have said that you would like to get out of boxing and carry a briefcase and be a sort of a black Henry Kissinger. Did your fight this week persuade you that maybe it's getting to be that time?
Yes, sir.
Do you intend to retire sometime in the near future?
Sometimes at the end of this year, my manager, Herbert Mohammed, and I have a plan where we're going to go to Germany to fight Richard Dunn, the European champion. After that, the Japanese wrestling champion of the world, good contender Ken Norton, and then we would like to quit.
Have you bought a black briefcase?
No, I have a couple of briefcases.
From CBS News, Washington. A spontaneous and unrehearsed news interview on Face the Nation with Muhammad Ali, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Mr. Ali will be questioned by CBS News correspondent Fred Graham, by Peter Bonventry, associate editor in sports for Newsweek magazine, and by CBS News correspondent George Herman. Face the Nation is produced by CBS News, which is solely responsible for the selection of today's guest and panel.
Mr. Ali, you have said that you like to lecture better than you like to box. You've become certainly a very well-known world figure. People know about you in every corner of the earth. You say you want to be a sort of a black Henry Kissinger. What is it you want to do after you've stopped fighting?
Well, I figure that we only have so many hours a day to do whatever we have to do, so many years to live, and in those years we sleep about 8 hours a day, we travel, we watch television. If a man's 50 years old, he's lucky to say if he's had 20 years to actually live. So I would like to do the best that I can for humanity. I'm blessed by God to be recognized as the most famous face on the earth today, and I cannot think of nothing no better than helping God's creatures, or helping poverty, or working for good causes where I can use my name to do so, to help this country in other countries where we're having various problems, where my influence might help.
Mohammed, what do you think you would have become if you didn't get into boxing?
I really don't know. I started boxing at 12 years old. I was not that educated in school, and I don't know what I would have done. Probably for factory worker, could have been somewhere dead, wound up in the wrong game, the wrong life. But if I had heard the Islamic teachings, and if I've heard the Muslim teachings, and which I've accepted, I would have probably been a minister doing something else good for mankind, but not in a larger way.
Mr. Ali, let me explain. I'm the law correspondent here at CBS, and they didn't bring me in because there might have been something illegal to ask you about, but because they learned that I've been a Golden Glovers once in the dim past, and I want to ask you a sort of a Walter Mitty-ish question. Is there ever going to be another great white hope, a white heavyweight that's going to come in and whip all of you black heavyweights?
Well, it's a great possibility. We can't foresee him now like they come up. We might have one now who might come out of the next Olympics. One might be in some gymnasium now, and he'll knock out somebody next week. We never know until it happens.
Why are there so few American white fighters? You're going to fight a white man in Germany, but why are so few American white heavyweights?
I really don't know. One time we had Jack Dempsey, Gene Tooney, John L. Sullivan, Rocky Marciano, Max Barrett, Tony Galento. We had good fighters. Carmen Basilio, Gene Foreman, and they're just not here now.
Well, then let me ask you about this Japanese wrestler. Isn't that denigrating your position as a champion to go over and take part in a gimmick like fighting a wrestler?
I would say ordinary champion, yes, but people expect these things of me. I have a great imagination. I'm always doing something. I don't think you've ever had a box on this show, because the things that I've done calls for attention. So this is going to be, we're going into the Oriental world. There's things I want to do for people of the world, and I can get through them through sports, where when I'm out of boxing, they'll all know me. And now we're working on the Oriental part of the world for some things we like to do there, and we get to meet them through sports. Plus, I have a family. I'm looking to take care of my family. It's a nice payday, and it's interesting. Many people want to know what would a boxer do with a wrestler, and then they'll have a chance to see.
Well, now let me ask you about that nice payday. It seems to me that in February of 1975, you said all your fights from now on were going to be free, that you were going to give all the money to various black charities and to help small businesses and so forth. Does the money come to you, or is it going to these charities?
Not just black charities. We help all type charities, all type people, so I want to get that straight now. yes, the monies that I make after all taxes, I said, I like to do all I can to help people and work for charity groups. And I want to say this on the show now. I get millions of phone calls from people thinking I'm the First National Bank. We don't give away no monies. I have lawyers, I have attorneys who check the organizations, the movements, and we don't have no individuals in business that have propositions. It's only for groups of people who need, and this is what I want to do.
Muhammad,
Was it lawyers and attorneys who went to that Jewish old people's home in New
No.
York where there was just about
No.
50 people, or was it Muhammad Ali himself?
No, this was me. This was me. And but things such as this, I almost don't have to get permission to help because we know this is right. There's no greed involved on no part of no individuals.
Muhammad, what would you say to your son if he came to you and expressed a desire to box?
Well, I think I'm going to control him or help my wife to control him, and that's to educate him first, get his mind together. And I wouldn't encourage him to box. I'll let him do it as a game, as a sport for health, but not as a livelihood because it's too dangerous. But teach him foreign language and get him. See, we all were born for purpose. Every trees, the moon, rain, snow, everything God created has a purpose, and man has a purpose. And the wise man is he who finds his life purpose, and we want to help him find his purpose in life, which I'm sure is not boxing.
Are you worried about the burden he'll have to bear being the son of Muhammad Ali? I mean, you're a tough act to follow.
Well, if my act is not a good act, and if I'm not doing nothing right for people, and if my image is bad, it'll be bad. But if I can do the things that I would like to do for God and the service of mankind, then I'm sure he'll be honored to be known as my son, and he would like to follow my footsteps, and people will admire him for that. But if my image is bad, then it's bad for him.
Can I go back to this question of money we were talking about before? By a rough estimate, you've made almost $25 million in purses since you came back to fight. Now, we've had the spectacle of some former champs who end up in the gutter. What are you doing to avoid that? Are you going to avoid that?
Yes, sir. I'm pray to Almighty God, Allah do. I think the best thing that I can do or anybody can do is to save the money. And
What's your money in, champ?
Government tax-free bonds is the best thing I think a man can put his money in. Investments are bad. There are no real good investments. All of them are gambles. And we pay the government all its taxes before I get mine. But this is why we fight so regular, because I think two halves is better than just one. So we plan to save as much as we can.
Well, you're a conservative, aren't you, champ? Government tax-free bonds. You're a pretty conservative man with your money.
Well, I have a lot of conservative fellows advising me.
Let me ask you about something you said just a moment ago in reply to a question by Pete. You said, advising you, son, you would say boxing was too dangerous. Has it been dangerous for you? Have you been hurt? Have you been injured? Have you been damaged in any way?
My jaw's been broken, and one nerve is just coming back from under here where I couldn't feel for about a year or two. And right now my eardrum is busted. I got my busted eardrum in Manila with Joe Frazier, training for Frazier. And I just had it rebusted, the same one again, and it'll heal itself in about 2 weeks. But this is about all. I've had a few sore ribs.
I ask because there's been some belief in some quarters that boxing was a dying sport in the United States. I noticed it dropped out of a lot of schools and a lot of colleges. I'm told that now it's coming back in some colleges. What do you think of boxing as a sport for amateurs?
I think boxing is dangerous. Any man being hit in the head, the brain's a delicate thing. I think it should be well protected. If a fellow's not qualified, he shouldn't be allowed to fight. But football is proven to have more deaths. Baseball, ice hockey, horse racing is a car racing is much more dangerous. But I would advise nobody to box if they get hit too much and it's too dangerous.
Muhammad, since this is a political year, do you have a favorite among the presidential candidates? And more interestingly, has anyone asked you for support?
No, they haven't. Made a statement the other day about I'm not voting for no one. I don't know enough about politics, nor do what I want people watching this show to be influenced by my feelings, because I don't know enough about it. But the only administration that I really have liked is Ford's administration. For the simple fact, immediately after beating George Foreman, I was invited to the White House and met him and his daughter. King Hussein was just in the country, and he thought enough of me, knowing that he was a Muslim. He my religion, he thought enough of me to invite me to entertain him and to meet him at the White House. So I've been to the White House twice. So if I had to do any voting, which I don't know enough about politics, but I like President Ford and his administration.
Can I go back to the money just for a minute?
Just a moment on this question of endorsing somebody. You have also said that you would vote for Jimmy Carter, have you not?
I mentioned no names.
Seems to me you were on record in
I
a
said,
newspaper article as saying you
no,
would vote for Jimmy Carter.
I remember I said no name. I said there's a certain fella, I just like his smile.
Well, were you put off by the ethnic purity remark that he made?
No, I don't know nothing about that. I don't condemn people for making remarks or making statements. I'm sure we all make statements off camera that would get us all in trouble. But because somebody made a mistake, I'm one who's been criticized for things I've said, so I'm the last one to condemn any man for something he said because I'm a victim of the same circumstance.
Well, you leave us kind of hung up. You like Jimmy, you like a man with a certain smile, and you like President Ford.
I didn't say no name. I like your smile.
You like a man with a certain smile for president, and you like President Ford. Are you going to vote for both of them?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say I like him for president. I just said I like the image of a certain man. I like the way he smiles. I see all the politicians smiling. What make you think I mean Carter?
I pursue this for one particular reason. There's been a big problem lately in a diminished vote from the black segment of the American population. The blacks have not been voting in anywhere like their past strength. And so I wonder whether you, as one of the recognized figures of the black community, might give a push to black voting, or whether you think of this is important.
I think it's important if the man we vote for does the right job and means right for all people. I don't know too much about politics, so this is why Carter, Ford, or whoever, I cannot openly make a statement who I'm supporting or who I'll vote for, because I don't know. But the administration that I like, and the one, I've been under a few presidents since I've been popular, but I've never been honored like I have by President Ford.
Well, you are. I know that you have more an interest in religion, and you've said that's one of the things you want to devote a lot of time to later. But now, Mr. Ali, what about this image also as a womanizer that you also have? Is that going to, you're looking at me a little incredulously here, I don't know why, but...
I'm trying to figure out what you mean by womanizer.
Well, you have a reputation as you're separated from your wife, and you have a reputation as a man who has a sharp eye for the ladies. Now, how is that going to be consistent with your role as a religious leader in the years ahead?
Well, as far as my personal beliefs are concerned, I don't talk about them in public. As far as my personal problems are with family, these are things I don't discuss in public, especially on high-class shows like I was told yours would be, so I don't even expect to talk about that here.
You have said from time to time that a wise man can play the fool, but a fool can't act like a wise man, and then you've said, I've always got to talk. People expect it of me. Is that a role that you play? Are you trying to be an actor?
What I was talking about, I used to watch a wrestler named Gorgeous George, and he would always talk about how he's going to annihilate the bomb, and he would do this and do that, and people came to see him get beat, and this is where I got the idea. So the talking and the gimmicks and the predicting, which I don't do nowadays like I used to, was only to promote the fights, which has now elevated me over all athletes in the history of the world as far as drawing power and world attraction is concerned. So this is just for purpose of publicity, all the talking. That's why I did that. I don't have to do it.
You kind of disappoint me, I have to admit. I sort of thought this poetry, this float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, was the real Ali, not some kind of a commercial gimmick.
No, that's all. It wasn't a commercial gimmick, but it was promotion, and it was the real Ali. I do float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, but the little poems and the gimmicks were just to promote the fights. Newspapers gave them something to write about.
If I can go back just for a minute, and this is obviously meant in a spirit of friendliness. The question of the Islamic religion and your future in that. The impression one gets is perhaps it is loosening up a bit after the death of Elijah Muhammad. Do you think it's changing now, and that your role in it can change in view of
what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught was good for the time during the 30s when black people were being castrated, lynched, deprived of freedom, justice, equality, raped. He had to teach that the white man is a devil. His actions towards us is that of a devil. Now that we're no longer being lynched, raped, castrated, we're given equal justice. We can go anywhere to live. Even the North fights the South so we can have certain rights. People are not acting this way today. So Wallace D. Muhammad is on time. He's teaching us it's not the color of the physical body that makes a man a devil. God don't look at our colors. Minds, hearts have no color. God look at our minds and our actions and our deeds. So we have white Muslims, brown Muslims, red Muslims, yellow Muslims, all colors. So it's the color. So the big thing in the change now, we have white people who have accepted our faith, and we now recognize all men as brothers, and we look at them according to their works. Some blacks can do evil and white, so it's not the color. Now we look at the actions.
Now, how about the money, though? There have been reports that the Muslims, to a large extent, controlled and received a lot of your money. What truth is there to that?
There's no truth whatsoever. I wish I could give more to my cause than I do. Who receives most of my money is the American government. I have made about $31 million up until this time, and the government has taken about $28 million. So I don't have no money to give to my religion like I want to. The government has taken it. I'll make $1,500,000 for the fight I just had. I'll be doing good to go home with $350,000 out of $1,500,000 because of all those taxes and state and federal and the government. So the government will take the monies, not my religion.
Muhammad, in your book, The Greatest, there seems to be a great deal of revisionist history. You tell us that you weren't brought up in middle-class comfort but semi-poverty. You tell us you're not a direct descendant of Henry Clay, and you tell us it wasn't a white Louisville cop named Joe Martin who started you on boxing, but a black instructor in Louisville. And this flies in the face of all the research we've done over the past 15 years. How did we miss it?
Well, Joe Martin was the man who I first started boxing with. Joe Martin is a white patrolman in Louisville, Kentucky, who held boxing at the Columbia Gym. And he had a show called Tomorrow's Champions. Well, during that time, the blacks were a little held back. So Fred Stoner was the best trainer. I would train with Joe Martin at 8 o'clock and go to 10 o'clock and train with Joe Martin. That's where I learned, Fred Stoner. That's where I learned my science, my boxing ability, my dancing ability, all my skills. But I had to go back to Joe Martin in order to stay with him to get on the television, which he had the connections and the complexions to get the protections. So I stayed with him. But the man who actually trained me, to taught me my skills, was Fred Stoner. But the man who took me around the country, got me the publicity, and put me in the right places with Joe Martin. So this is how I had to make it in that southern city.
But what about you say you grew up in semi-poverty? Your father was a fairly successful
When I
son.
say semi-poverty, many days we didn't have food, and many days we had to put cardboard in our shoes, and many days the car wouldn't start because it was always 15 years too old, and many days the toilet wouldn't flush because the plumbing was broke, or many days we had to put a pan under the roof because the water had leaked in the kitchen, we couldn't afford to fix it, the cellar would fill up during rain and we had to take a bucket and put the water out. My mother and father did all they could, and with the monies they made, they raised me good, and this is why I'm as great as I am now, because of my mother and father and the help of God. So, and the way I never had to work, and they did all they could to feed me. So this is why I'm where I'm at. But semi-poverty compared to what I know and you know. We may go out tomorrow and spend $150 for dinner if we take 3 people. The average family in America today feeds a family 2 weeks on $150.
Were you ever asked during that period of time to throw a fight?
No, sir. I see this stuff in movies, but...
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. Is that just in the movies, or is there a lot of that in
all
boxing?
All I know is from the movies. I've never had nobody say throw a fight. I've never knew nobody who did. Now, probably in the past these things have happened, but I know nothing about it.
You also report in the book that you threw your Olympic gold medal into the river after a couple of racist incidents. Do you regret that now? Do you wish you had the medal back now that the country has changed?
I wish I had my medal. I might try to go back and find that medal. Something happened to me one day, and I just got mad and threw the medal away.
Can I ask you one question about the Supreme Court decision? There was a report around the Supreme Court that the justices had first voted to uphold your conviction, and then later that they switched and it was unanimously to overturn it. Did you and your lawyers ever hear that rumor?
No, sir. I never heard that before.
Do you think that the system of justice dealt fairly with you?
Yes, sir. I know they have. I'll say this. We have a lot of moral problems in America, but America's the greatest country in the world. I've been throughout the world. The best schooling system, the best educational system, the medical system, the highways, the cars, the airplanes, the television shows. And this is why, but morally, we need to be uplifted. And the greatest moral teacher that we have in America is the Honorable Wallace D. Muhammad. And we are now looking to tell the people more about him.
Muhammad, let me bring a couple of questions out of left field. We talked about this once. Do you believe in life on other planets? And two, do you believe in reincarnation? And if you do, who would you come back as?
Yes, I believe in life. I believe there is. I'm not really sure. I don't think none of us can prove it, but I've heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teach that there's life on Mars. I believe, if I believed in reincarnation, I don't know, it was just a quick question, but I would like to come back as Wallace Muhammad, our great Muslim leader in America. To us, he's everything because he's teaching us all about ourselves, about God, how to treat people, how to eat, everything, my whole life, everything that I do, everything that I represent, all I think about when I'm fighting is the Honorable Wallace D. Muhammad and his program. He's the only man that I really admire, and I would like to come back as him.
Let me ask you one question, which I don't know whether it's out of left field or right field, about Muslims in America. One of the things that people think about is the conflict in the Arabic world between Muslims and Jews. Some people who are Jewish in this country get worried about black Muslims, and yet you show very little in the way of signs of anti-Semitism. It doesn't seem to be any parallel there.
No, well, I would like for you to look at me as a true one, as far as true belief is concerned. We don't have black Muslims here. That's a press word. We have white brothers. We have brown, red, and yellow. All colors can be Muslims. And as far as the conflict is concerned in those countries, I don't know too much about it, and I'm looking for peace one day with all people.
Now, Mr. Ali, you're obviously a very bright man, and yet we're told that at one time that you flunked the draft exam because of the mental test. Did you throw that? Did you throw? Was that one fight you threw?
Or was it fixed?
The reason I'm laughing is because it was true. I did fail it. Today, I'm not a good reader. I don't spell good at all. If you gave me a test today, I might fail it because we have 2 minutes to do the test. I told them after that, they said, Muhammad, you failed the test. I said, I told you I was the greatest, not the smartest.
Muhammad, they're going to go into filming on a movie based on your life, and you're supposed to be playing yourself. If you weren't the star, who would you like to play Muhammad Ali in the movies?
I really don't know. I would have to take some time to think about it, but it's real difficult because I can act. They say I'm a good actor, but nobody's never written lines to me and told me what to say and then look serious. So they've invested so much Columbia Pictures in this, and they really have a lot of faith, and I'm thankful for that, but they don't know if I can act or not yet.
Okay, thank you very much, Muhammad Ali, for being with us today on Face the Nation. And we'll have a word about next week's guest in a moment.
Today on Face the Nation, Muhammad Ali, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, was interviewed by CBS News correspondent Fred Graham, by Peter Bonventry, associate editor in sports for Newsweek magazine, and by CBS News correspondent George Herman.